Let's look at the signs of the 6 trig functions. So we'll start with the sine function, which hopefully you recall relates to the vertical side of the reference triangle. Okay, so if we consider reference triangles, let's say in the first quadrant, the vertical side is positive. In the second quadrant, the reference triangle has a positive vertical side. In the third quadrant, it has a negative vertical side, and in the fourth quadrant, it has a negative vertical side. So the sine function is positive when the vertical side's positive. In other words, when you're up. And negative when you're down, when you've got a negative vertical side. And the same thing is true about the reciprocal of the sine function, cosecant. So cosecant and sine share this property of being positive when you go up and negative when you go down. Cosine relates to the horizontal side of your reference triangle. So secant will have the same signs as cosine. So if we look at this, in the first quadrant, the horizontal side is positive. In the second quadrant, the horizontal side is negative. In the third quadrant, the horizontal side is negative. And in the fourth quadrant, the horizontal side is positive. So cosine is positive when you move to the right. So in the right quadrants, cosine is positive. And in the left quadrants, cosine is negative since it relates to the horizontal side. And secant shares both of those properties. Okay, last we have the tangent function, which is the vertical divided by the horizontal. Okay? So if we look in the first quadrant, the vertical is positive, the horizontal is positive. When you divide a positive by a positive, you get a positive. In the second quadrant, the vertical is positive, but the horizontal is negative. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. In the third quadrant, the vertical is negative and the horizontal is positive. The horizontal is negative as well because it's going to the left. Negative divided by negative is positive. And last, in the fourth quadrant, the horizontal is positive and the vertical is negative. Positive or negative divided by positive is negative. So tangent alternates signs. So tangent's positive in the first quadrant and positive again in the third quadrant. And then it's negative in the second quadrant and negative in the fourth quadrant. Okay? Now one thing you'll notice, if you look at all the trig functions, yeah, we can fit them all on one screen. In the first quadrant, all the trig functions are positive because all the sides of the reference triangle are positive. But after that is where they start to differ. Sine is positive when you go up or down, or sine is positive and negative when you go up or down. Cosine is positive or negative when you go right or left. Tangent is positive or negative on an alternate basis because one side changes signs as you rotate through the quadrants. Okay? So that's how you get the signs of the trig functions.